This is Black Views, bringing you the Black News. Today our story is about Dana White, CEO, President of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Dana White is from Manchester, Connecticut. He has 3 children and married to Ann White, his wife, since 1996. So this story is basically about him going to Cabal, Mexico, and there was some domestic violence situation that went down. We're not sure of all the information, but we do have the video where it shows Dana White pretty much, smacking up his wife. And we don't know why, we don't know what the reason is, but we do know it's a domestic violence situation. When Dana White was asked about it by TMZ, it seemed to be a thing about, alcohol. They were having a good time, and it doesn't tell us what they were talking about. Doesn't tell us how it got to that point. But we know it's very evident that he smacked her. Throughout the whole video, he consistently says that it's wrong. This is not something you're supposed to do. But he got caught doing it. Me personally, Dana White should step down. Being as though he's in an organization where there is a lot of violence, because that's the competing edge. Violence in his sport. Now the CEO, the very top, has now committed assault. That's what that was. That was an assault. There was no charges brought against him, or there was no investigation. There was no type of extradition or anything for him to pay for the consequences of his actions. Is it possible no charges are filed because there's a $1 billion contract with the UFC and ESPN? Isn't it ironic? The same publication that puts out numerous details on Jalen Rose and all other black athletes on what type of violence they have done, or what type of skirmishes they get into, or arguments they get into. I mean, it's all over with a negative connotation to it. So now, let me present you with the receipts, and then I'll come back and we'll chop it up.
Dana, why don't you just tell us what happened that night? What happened leading up to that video?
Well, I'm in Cabo, Mexico, for the holidays with my family. And my wife and I were out Saturday night on New Year's Eve. And, unfortunately, that's what happened. I'm one of the guys, you've heard me say for years, there's never, ever an excuse for a guy to put his hands on a woman. And now here I am on TMZ talking about it. But my wife and I have been married for almost 30 years. We've known each other since we were 12 years old. We've obviously been through some shit together. And we've got 3 kids. And, this is one of those situations that's, horrible. I'm embarrassed, but it's also one of those situations that is, right now we're more concerned about our kids. We have 3 kids, and, obviously since the video popped up, we've shown the kids the video, and, we're more focused on our family right now. People are going to have opinions on this, and most of the people's opinions would be right. And especially in my case, you don't put your hands on a woman ever. My wife and I obviously love each other. We've been together for a very long time. We've known each other since we were very little, and this is just one of those unfortunate situations.
You were at a place in Cabo that where alcohol flows.
Yeah, I mean, Dana, what we were told by people who were in the club, that it, at least to them, seemed that there was a lot of alcohol involved in this situation.
There was definitely a lot of alcohol involved, but that's no excuse. I literally am making no excuses for this thing at all. It's never happened before. It's the first time that it's ever happened, and people are going to say what they're going to say. It's just is what it is, and whatever people do say, it's deserved. I deserve it. It happened. I don't know why it happened, and you know, my wife and I have apologized to each other. We've apologized to our kids, and you know, this is one of those things that everybody's going to chime in. I could care less what anybody else thinks about this. Right now, what we're more concerned about are our kids and taking care of our family.
In the video that we've seen, it seems like this what started and was over in less than a minute. Is that we haven't seen any video beyond that? Is it fair to say that this ended? How did this situation end?
That was the beginning of it and the end of it, and you know, we're still on vacation. You know, everything. You're talking about somebody who is, you know, her and I have known each other since we were 12 years old, and we've been married for almost 30 years. So, you know, we're obviously best friends. She's my wife, and you know, we had too much to drink, and whatever happened that night happened. But yeah, that was it, and it was done.
Dana, the final thing, you say whatever happened that night happened. Do you remember it?
No, I don't remember a lot. So yeah, no. Obviously, this thing, you know, it's one of those situations. It's embarrassing for both of us, but more importantly, what we're more concerned about are our kids. We're concerned about. Listen, nobody knows you better than your kids know you. They grow up in your house with you. They see everything. They hear everything. They know everything. And everybody always asks me, you know, questions about, well, do I care about this? Do I care about that? And my question is always the same. My legacy and all this other stuff with work doesn't mean anything to me. It's all about your family, you know? It's about your wife and kids, and in this situation too. Like I'm saying, everybody's going to have an opinion. We're just worried about our family and focused on our kids right now.
Okay, everyone, we have now heard the interview from TMZ and Dana White. Did you hear the interview? The receipts were presented. And in the interview, you can hear TMZ kind of just smooching over this thing as if this is not a big thing. As if this is nothing. It was a lot of alcohol. TMZ goes as far as to say, can you remember anything? As far as to say, was a lot of alcohol that night, wasn't it? I mean, this is not really about, there is no accountability. I'll just say that. There's no accountability for the white man that smacks his wife. And it's on TV. There's no accountability. There's no pundits out there, no politicians, nobody saying anything. This is just being swept under the rug, almost as if, it was just, you know, it just had an argument and, you know, it's over with now. This is Dana White. And so I have another piece of bonus footage for you. It kind of makes me feel, you know, when you listen to Dana White, he's a real piece of shit. And you are a piece of shit pretty much if your mother says you're a piece of shit. And so I'll play that bonus footage for you so you can see it. Stand by.
Dana White was a good guy. You know, guys liked him, girls liked him. He just had this great personality. People were attracted to him. They wanted to be his friend. They liked hanging out with him. Our family was very close. We did a lot of things together. Dana, when I first moved back to Boston, he came back and lived with me for a while back there. Even back then, you know, he'd be down at a bar with a friend or something, and he'd call me up and go, Mom, we're having a beer down at, so-and-so's bar. Come on down and have a beer with us. I wrote this book because I don't like the person Dana's become. And the thing that pushed it over the edge for me was when his grandmother got sick and died this summer. His grandmother was one of those grandmothers that he was with a lot. She lived with us for a while. When he would go back east, when we lived in Vegas, he spent time with her back there. So she was sick and dying, and he hadn't spoke to her in 2 years. And he called her up and told her, Graham, I'm going to send my plane to get you. I'm going to bring you back to Vegas to live with us. You're going to have the best medical care money can buy. And then she never heard from him again. So, and that was typical Dana. So I really didn't even think twice about it. But the final straw was when I saw one of her neighbors. And her neighbor asked me what I was doing there. And I said, my mom's sick and, I'm down here taking care of her. And she said, oh, we thought she was gone. I said, gone where? She said, well, she told us her grandson was coming to get her. She told everybody in the neighborhood that she wouldn't be here because he was coming to get her to take care of her now. So that just sort of pushed the final button for me. And, I was hoping the book, a lot of the stuff might bring him back or make him think about who he's become and what he does to people and the way he behaves. But I don't think it's really had that effect on him.
Now that grandmother passed away.
Yes.
Did he come to her funeral?
No. We had she was cremated in Florida, and then we had a funeral service for her up in Connecticut. And he never came. He didn't send flowers, card, nothing. Yeah, I don't want to take anything away from him for what he's done for MMA and the UFC. I mean, Dana has a high school education and that's it. And I think it's pretty amazing the things he's been able to do with MMA and the UFC. But he's not a good person. He seems to have lost his character somewhere along the way. He mistreats people. It's terrible the way he speaks of women and treats women. That really bothers me because I don't believe I've ever brought him up to behave like that. He doesn't speak about me very often, and when he does, it's very short and brief. He doesn't like to talk about me. My mom was never around, but he doesn't seem to add to it why I was never around. I really did work like 80, 100 hours a week, so I was able to pick up a lot of money, but that was to pay for everything. If he didn't go to that school, if I didn't work all those hours, he would have never met the Fertittas.
Okay, that's enough right there. I didn't play the whole video. You can get out there, you can find that video, you can hear the old interview, but I wanted to have this portion of the interview to basically display my point. My point is that Dana White is a piece of shit. His own mother says he's a piece of shit. So none of this that you hear is new. Nothing about what you see is new. Him abusing his wife. It's not so much about him abusing his wife. It's how our country reacts upon it. There's no conversation about it. There's no double down news. There's no big news conference. There's no TV show like you do all the black artists and all the other black people that have made mistakes or been in, and you don't even see violence like this. You might see a fight. You might see a fight between two men or argument between two men. They make a bigger deal about black people arguing with black men than arguing with black women. So God forbid if they were ever to see something like what you saw Dana White do, and nobody's even making a big deal about it. But we know why? Because billions of dollars have to play within this. That's why. You see Stephen A. Smith on ESPN? I'm going to show you ESPN. I'm going to show you Stephen A. Smith. Stand by.
Said this, to say this is out of character for him is an understatement. Nothing like this has ever happened before. So though White is the face of the UFC, Stephen A., it is an entity owned by Endeavor. What type of discipline should Dana face?
Well, my immediate response to that is whatever discipline he should face is the kind of discipline he would impose upon someone he oversees. because
A
that would be
fighter.
that would be consistent with who he is.
Okay, so do you hear his response? Do you hear how did you hear Stephen A. Smith's response to Dana White? Whatever he would impose upon himself. Why would we leave that upon him? We're asking you. And you can't answer the question. Why? Because he's Dana White. But if it was any other high-profile black athlete that would have said something or done something inappropriate, oh, you'd been all over it. You'd have been telling them how stupid they were. You'd have been telling them how they're not very smart. You'd have been telling them what other sanctions or what they should do to get back in good graces. And so this is where I'm going to leave it at. Because you can see the hypocrisy right before your eyes. So first thing I want to say is please like, also comment, and hit the bell to get the updates. This is Black Views, bringing you the Black news.